Here's what happened. I got in the car, drove to a park near my parents' place, and I was on the phone with someone I trusted. This was the moment I was going to share a secret that I thought I was going to take to the grave. I had my hands on the steering wheel of the car. I was in this parking lot. I tried to avoid any cars nearby. I was really trying to find a spot that was far away from anyone else. And as my hands were on the steering wheel, I felt the tension in my arms. And then in the pit of my stomach, I had this pressure that was building. And those were the words that had to be expressed and shared out. And so the pressure was building. And I had this moment of like, okay, here we go. It's happening. Oh shit. And it was coming up, bubbling up to my chest and then up my throat. And then the words just started pouring out. It was awkward. It was a jumble. It was a mess. But I just said it and it felt like this release of my stomach dropping as I'm saying these words. And like I could feel in the back of my neck these tingles. I felt my face was getting really hot. But as I finished saying these words, I then had to look at this person because it was on a video call. And I just was like tense, so frozen in fear as to what the response was going to be. And I can't remember exactly what this person said back, but all I remembered was like, it was super chill and normal and like normal. It normalized it and what come up was just like, okay, let's move on. And that for me caused a massive weight of stress and overwhelm to release. Kind of like one of those moments where you have a hiking backpack on, this heavy hiking pack, and then just drops from the shoulders after you've done like miles of hiking. It was that feeling, and it was like this bucket of relief that was dumped on my body. This is Make Burnout Extinct. I'm Robert David Weeks. The problem I want to talk about today for conversation is keeping your secrets to yourself. What I want to get into are 3 musts for sharing a secret. I want to share with you 3 levels of the process that I went through, and then 3 things that I would have liked to have learned and been told about before sharing my secrets. My hope for this conversation with you is that with secrets, I don't believe anyone is immune to this problem. I believe we all have had secrets in our life. Some of us have shared all those secrets. Others, we have it bottled up inside. But I feel like I did that many of us think we're alone in having our secrets, that no one else has experienced something similar to us. And for the most part, there have been a lot of people potentially that have experienced the same secrets that you're holding on to. Some of the secrets that come up for me is the struggle with self-confidence from watching porn as a young kid and like not knowing what the hell I was doing. Another one was having sexual experiences in my middle school years with an older boy and feeling shame and a lot of guilt around that. And then another one is running up to my room to cover my ears as a kid as my parents were arguing because I thought my parents were the only ones that argued, which was a ridiculous thought to think about that. Anyone that's in a relationship can get that. There are going to be those arguments. So a lot of those secrets and others, or a lot of the secrets in my life were in the driver's seat of my life. And they were controlling then how I showed up for my future and what I thought was possible for my life. And by putting a spotlight on these secrets and sharing them with someone I trusted, it helped me to then open up the doorways of possibilities for my life. It released such a heavy stress and stress and overwhelm that I didn't even realize my body was carrying. It's one of those moments where you just think your normal is the normal. But when I was able to release that and step into this new level of relief for my body, it then helped me to move forward with this lightness and this ease that I wasn't used to before. Doesn't mean that there still isn't challenging and hard days, but I'm able to face it with less of the stress and the overwhelm that had built up chronically for me. Because I want to connect this to burnout for you so you can understand what's going on. Because I know that you probably have like 1 or 2 secrets that are coming up right now that deep down you might take it to the grave. And I thought that with one of them. But I will tell you that it's not worth it to hold on to that, because what it does is it's going to move you so much faster to burnout. And then all of a sudden, you're going to be staying in burnout for a lot of your life, for decades potentially. And the reason why that this moves you to burnout of keeping your secrets to yourself is because it builds an open loop of stress and pressure within the body. Because all of a sudden now you're thinking about this, and it's going rattling in your head mentally, that then leads into the rest of the body of whenever this experience comes up, or you think about it, or you have this flashback. All of a sudden that you feel that within the body. But when you can share it with other people, it all of a sudden, what I realized for me, what it did for me, was it normalized it as like not this big scary thing that's in the dark lurking inside of me, but actually spotlighted it for what it was, which was an experience that happened, but it happened in my past. And so therefore it doesn't have to be in the driver's seat for my future, and doesn't have to control then what I want out of this life and the possibilities. And I don't have to limit myself. For me, it's a part of me, but it doesn't define me. And that is a gift I want to give to you as we go through this conversation today. And I feel like these conversations, they can feel like heavy. They can feel heavy. It's sharing secrets is hard. It does. You have to have that moment of like stepping into it, leaning into it. And there's courage that comes with that. And it's something that I admire in anyone that is wanting to step into it. And I want to tell you, it is possible for you to step into it. I know how it feels, which could feel like you're not going to survive this. That fear and scariness that makes you freeze, or makes you be like, no way in hell, dude, am I going to share this? Like, absolutely not. Or you could even get angry and be like, fuck you, I'm not going to share this. But I'm going to challenge you, and like, we're going to lean into this thing, and I'm going to show you that you can move on after you share these secrets. So I want to get into first the 3 musts to share a secret. The first one is you have to choose to share it. The second one is you have to feel safe in sharing that secret. And then the third one is you share it with someone you trust. All of the secrets I shared with you at the beginning, I've shared that with someone. It's been different people, but I've shared it with someone I trust. You don't have to share this publicly if you don't want to. You don't have to share it in a situation where you feel forced into sharing your secrets. Like, I want to remind you that for going to back to the first must, you have to choose to share it. And that is a decision that you make. And it's up to you to decide. And then when you make that decision, it then turns into a commitment for you to honor. And the body, once you open up that doorway, it is really hard to close it. Because what happens is then the body is expecting you to lean in and share this secret. And when that happens, it's creating an open loop. And if you are not honoring that commitment, that then also fuels towards burnout, and that first red flag of chronic exhaustion, because your body's exhausted holding this thing with the feeling that you're going to share it, but you're choosing not to. So that's where when it comes to the self-trust, that starts to break away if you don't follow through on this. So it goes back to that at the beginning. Once you made that decision, you are moving down this path. That can feel scary, but I want to tell you, on the back end of this, when you do share it, there's so much relief and peace that can come from that. It may not be peaceful in how you share it. It may be really challenging and hard and awkward in the words that you share, but it will be able to provide such an immense relief that you may have never experienced before in your life. And when it comes to feeling safe in sharing it, that's another really important thing. You want to, that goes back to trusting the person that you're going to share this with, because when you know you have someone that you trust, it creates a safety for the body to be willing to share those words, because it will be a struggle, like, to share these words. Like, it'll come up as like a spaghetti is how I think about it. Spaghetti, messy for the words. It may not make sense. You may feel all over the place, but just sharing it for the first time, It may be awkward, but then from there you can always, refine it if you need to be like, oh, that's actually what I meant to say, or let me expand on this. Or if the person's like trying, confused, you can just be like, okay, this is what I meant. But it will be awkward and spaghetti-ish at the beginning. Now, as I mentioned to you, like one story that comes up is, and I've shared this story before, was telling my parents I'm not okay. This was after my burnout that happened in 2018, after I had the 500-person social media conference where I felt I had to be perfect and on. I was lying so much to my team, so much to the community and people closest to me about how I felt physically and mentally. But I remembered a few years later, I had to tell my parents that I wasn't okay. It was the first time I had ever told them that I thought I had to be perfect for them. And I remember it was the kitchen table. My mom was right there. And I remembered, really struggling to say the words of I'm not okay. Because the most important thing was I didn't want them to be ashamed of me or to not love me, which was a ridiculous thought going into the thing. Because once I said it and told my mom and then later told my dad that I'm not okay, I mean, and then from there, what happened was when I told them I wasn't okay, then all of a sudden it felt like a waterfall for all the other things I wanted to tell them of where I was lying, what was going on with myself, for how I felt, the lies that had built up over the months and years, and it just all poured out. And it was like one of those moments where it's like, here we go, like let me just let it all pour out. And that's what it felt like. It felt like an emptying of the pressure, and you can think of it as that the body being the balloon. It felt the air was being I'm trying to think of the word right now. The air was, we'll just say the air was coming out of that balloon real fast, and it then allowed the pressure and that stress that had built up to really shrink, and then the relief to come into it of just saying the thing, not even preparing for their response back for my mom and then my dad, but just saying it. And then what happened was my mom said like, hey, like, you know i I know we still love you. And hearing that too from my dad, and just knowing that they were going to stand by me, like that added even more to the relief that I felt. And it was like that heavy hiking pack that you've been carrying for potentially, like, you think about it like a marathon, you're carrying this thing and then releasing that heavy hiking pack, and it's that relief that you feel of sharing it and acknowledging it, and then realizing, most importantly for my life, was realizing I can move on with my life. It changed my whole perspective on this, because what I also noticed is when you hold on to your secrets, all of a sudden now you have to always be somewhat careful with the words that you're sharing. You always then feel like you're hiding something. That's what the body feels like, is it's hiding, which then can still get into this feeling, this freeze moment, this uncertainty for the body, and that can then cause more stress to build, more of the anxiety to build, and the overwhelm, which can lead you to that first red flag of chronic exhaustion. And then when you're hiding something, what also happens is then you're thinking for every single person you're interacting with that they're a threat to you. At least in my own personal experience, that's what kept it coming up. I kept on thinking everyone's a threat out there. And really it was just because I was holding things in, and I was holding all that pressure in. And I really like this Mark Twain quote. I'm hopefully gonna get it right, where it's, if you tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything. And it's so true. The amount of mental chatter that has gone away in my life over the years as I let out these secrets has been massive for the difference. All of a sudden, I'm not constantly having to think back to like, okay, what should I say? What should I say? And it's a freeing feeling. And so that's another reason to step into this and share your secrets. I then want to get into from there with you of like sharing your secrets. There are different types of secrets I've realized for my life, and it may come up for you where some secrets are going to take a little or a lot longer to share, for time, for you to feel ready to, or not so much ready, but it's just feeling like you're willing to share the secrets. Because you being ready to do this thing, I mean, it's a scary and hard thing to do. So you may not be fully ready to step into it, but you may have that willingness to be like, all right, I got this. Like, or not so much, not even I got this. This is me telling you, you got this, but just you being willing to step into it and share. So here we go for 3 levels. There are these 3 levels that come up for me. The first one is writing the secret. This is going back to the one I had said at the beginning where I thought I was going to take this to the grave. I literally wrote out a letter to my future grandkids, telling them about this secret, letting them know I had to share it with someone. And that sucks. Like, I think about that in my own life, looking back at that, of how much that sucks that I, at that time in my life, felt like I was going to take this to my grave. And what ultimately that would have done would have kept the open loop of the pressure and stress to the point where, it would be so, I'd have to release it in some way. And I want to go back for a second because I've talked about this before, of that story where I told my parents I wasn't okay. It was because I went to the hospital, I believe the night before, if not like a few days before. I had gone to the hospital because I had what I thought was a panic attack. But what I had realized as I was reflecting in the emergency room and then right before stepping up and telling them was, it was my body telling me in a really intense way of like, you got to tell this secret, because it had already been on my mind of telling them that I'm not okay and telling them how much I had lied and what had happened. So for me, that's where I drew that connection back. But there are going to be certain secrets that are going to take a longer, and a great way that was helpful for me was to write it out at the beginning. And as I said, I wrote out that letter, and it was it helped me in that moment to spotlight it. It was a form of not keeping it in the dark within me. So I always go back to what you don't understand scares you. So if you can understand it, you can see it for what it is. It helps you to not be so scared about this thing. And so writing it out, I was able to see it right in front of me. It felt a little bit of relief. And then that's also what helped to begin this process. I realized looking back, I'm like, okay, that's what began the process to then decide for the next level of deciding to want to share it with someone I trust. So then the decision had to be made. And then from there, the third level of this thing for sharing the secret is having the conversation. So important to have that conversation, to talk it out and talk it through. You can, I'll share with you a way that you can open up the conversation. So to prepare the person, that doesn't have to make it into this big, intense, big thing. I think about this, the dramatic, maybe like that's the word that's coming up. Like, it doesn't have to be this dramatic thing, but just to prepare them for what to expect. So I think back to that. Like something I feel like you could relate to is having to write it out. Like, I do believe it can hold us back for not sharing our secrets from connecting with ourselves on a deeper level. So that might be also a thing that's coming up. It's like, you may not understand your true self or more about who you are. Well, are there secrets there that are causing it to be really hard to sift through and understand yourself? And then it also can be really difficult when you're not sharing these secrets to connect with other people, because again, you think everyone, even if you don't realize it consciously, it's this feeling that everyone's a threat because they might find out about your secrets. So I know a lot of people out there are feeling lonely. And as you put in this effort in who you want to become with your health or your career or your relationships, it does require a willingness to lean in. And from that, courage will build. And it is going to be messy at the beginning. Like, it will be a little bit messy. But just remembering that by stepping into this thing, there's going to be a lot of relief that can come your way. So a way you can start a conversation with someone to prepare them is letting them know, hey, I have something really important I want to talk to you about. So you can even send that through a text message before, or or in conversation in person. You can say that right before. And that, I feel, is a really soft way of opening this conversation up, of not making it super dramatic, but also preparing them for something important that you want to share with them. So what I do hope for you is, by sharing your secrets, what this can do is help you to have a better life and less mental chatter. and a lot less chronic stress, because you are going to be closing these loops that have been stuck within you. And then it's giving up the power that these secrets have over you, taking them out of the driver's seat and realizing you can get into the driver's seat of your life. It then opens up a whole lot of possibilities that get me excited for you. And I think about that in my own life, to even think right now of where I'm at and the things that are coming up in my life, the start of this podcast and my commitment to you to make it the best show it can be and to be the best storyteller and best researcher. And just to share what the things that I am sharing, I don't even know if I could have possibly thought about that happening a few years ago when I had all those secrets. So I do want to continue to remind you of, you have the ability to do this for yourself, and you're not alone in this. I go back to this survey that I saw where it was saying, how in 1990 there was 3% of Americans didn't have any close friends, and now I think the year was it was either 2023, 2022, around that year. The survey, they did the survey again, and it was like 12% of people don't have any close friends. There are 12% of Americans don't have any close friends. And I will tell you that we are in a connection crisis. And one of those ways that you can start to create deeper connections is to share it with someone you trust. That could be professional, that could be a friend, that could be a family member, but someone that you trust, so that you can then open up to more connections with others. And that my hope is to be able to have close friends that you can rely on in your life. Because going through this life and this journey alone is something I don't want for anyone to feel like they don't have that support system. And it's really important when it comes to avoiding burnout to also have that support system and people that you can lean on in your life. So 3 things I would have liked to hear. I'm going to share with you. 3 things I would have liked to hear before sharing my secrets. The first one is that nobody's perfect. I want to remind you, you're not perfect. Everyone else that you're seeing out there, no matter what is popping up on social media or what people are putting out there online or in person in conversations, nobody is perfect. I want to make sure that sinks in, because it's true. And I feel it intellectually true, but then the rest of the body is like not wanting to believe that sometimes. But it is absolutely true. Nobody's perfect. The second thing is that a lot of people probably have experienced something similar to you. And that's, I think, such a cool thing. Because it may have been really hard, the experience that you dealt with. There could be a lot of pain in there, a lot of suffering that has been built. But then to know that you aren't the only one, that this is something that has happened to other people, I know for me, it gives me a sense of relief of like, okay, like I can move on from this thing. Like it does not have to control my life. So just knowing that really did help. And that's my reminder to you, is that a lot of people probably have experienced something similar to you. And then the final thing is that you will feel a new level of peace and appreciation in your life that you may have never experienced before or even thought was possible for yourself. And I can tell you from personal experience, it even gets me like, it's bringing a lot of feelings up when I say that, because it is so true. Like, it's hard to really understand the difference when you're in it, of potentially that heavy backpack that you're wearing or heavy hiking pack that you're wearing, and you may not even be realizing it. You might be like, this is just how life's supposed to be, right? Well, I will tell you, by sharing those secrets, putting a spotlight on it, sharing it with people you trust, like there is going to be a whole new level of peace and appreciation in your life. And damn, that's going to help you to move forward towards who it is you want to become, the vision you have for your life, the goals you've set out to accomplish, the connections you want to make with other people. Because I know, again, you want to give to this world. You want to give that to other people. And I will tell you, like, there's going to be a whole new doorway. There will be a doorway that opens up a whole new lot of possibilities that are going to be fucking awesome for you in that peace and appreciation. So I want to remind you to how to start this process is to start small and then move forward with the process. So you can go back to the 3 musts. If that needs to be an area you got to work on, it can go back to the 3 levels, the 3 things I would have liked to hear before sharing my secrets. But start small and then move forward with this process to start sharing your secrets. And what can happen is, what's helpful is to pick what feels like the easiest secret for you to share. When you're about to make that decision to open up, to create the commitment, start with the easiest. I know that was really helpful. If you are not sure how to go about this process, you might have one that comes up already that you're like, I got to share this one. Go for it. Lean into it. Lean into one that's coming up right now for you. And then from there, take the next action and continue that momentum. Because once you share the first secret, it does help with then the momentum and the courage to share your other secrets. It does become this waterfall effect. And from there, it's going to be, I'm so excited for then where your life's going to take you. And if nobody has said this to you yet, I believe in you because you're capable of doing this. You got this. If you like this episode, please don't forget to rate this podcast to help get this message out of Make Burnout Extinct. And you can share what resonates with you from this episode by connecting with me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode. I don't take that for granted, ever. And I'm so excited to reconnect again soon.